And the video is on, and we have no one in the audience.
Is this the owl active?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon. This is Bill Kanda, Custer County Board of Health Chairman. Today is Wednesday, February the 8th, 2023, 1:32 p.m. Please silence your phones if you got them, smoke them if you got them, and we'll begin this meeting. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thanks. So roll call.
Oh, sorry.
That's me. Hold on just a second. Click the wrong button.
It always happens. There's always somebody pushing a button somewhere.
Are you ready for roll call?
Yep,
Bill Kanda,
here.
Kevin Day,
Present.
Tom Flower,
Present.
Dr. Brown.
Here.
And Dorothy Karsten. Here. And Jennifer Cree, secretary.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. And you introduced the audience too, and that was our sanitarian.
Oh, I thought that she was part of the board.
It's the Board of Health, it contains the Board of Health members and the Director of Public Health. And you are the caretaker.
Gotcha.
All right, so what we have here, I know Jennifer worked the agenda with Dr. Brown. This is the agenda that you see that was different topics, and as Dr. Brown pointed out earlier, most of the updates on this agenda come in on the same day we have the meeting. Maybe we ought to think about changing the meeting, but if we change it to the earlier day on the first of the month, then it'll be a month old. If we go now, we don't get it in time, so maybe there's a different time we can think of later. Yeah, Wednesday or something on the middle of the month. So anyway, so today we have the report that he's got. We also have the sanitarian with some issues that she's going to go over here with Dorothy Karsten, and then the monthly review that he's got going. So, Dr. Brown, is the Board of Health report the same as what you're going to do in these 4 items below here? You see how the agenda is arranged?
Yes, I was just going to follow that agenda.
Right. And so that report up front, are they the same items as?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then.
And I thought the Board of Health report would be.
Well, what we're going to do is, before I get there, is to look and see if the Board of Health, and we need to get that in here, is if there's any issue the Board of Health has. Maybe we do it like commissioner items, it'd be Board of Health.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If that person could read Board of Health member items.
That would be good there, or we can do it
Or wherever.
wherever you, like we do the agenda, or it doesn't matter, it can state that, but let's say that.
Okay, perfect. I'll make that correction.
All right. So I didn't say anything to amend on the agenda. Kevin, you got anything?
I have nothing.
No, sir.
Okay, nothing there. You, Dr. Brown, you got anything? Okay, then the approval of the minutes, and did we get minutes from the last meeting?
I think we got them the day of the last meeting. I remember, I'm looking at them right now.
I thought that
I think you sent them out.
I am slacking today. So sorry.
Okay, well, let's just wait, we'll get that later. From the last meeting, you still have those minutes?
I'm looking.
Let's see.
It's a pretty good meeting last time, I remember.
Got it. Was it September 29th is our last?
No,
No,
it was in
should have
October.
been December. We had a meeting, didn't we?
You
No,
had,
got
we did
canceled in
October. I think we
December.
canceled December because of Christmas.
Does it work?
We didn't meet in November.
I thought that we did, but
Oh, we'll
I don't
straighten
think-
that out. Get what September is a little, send those out anyway. We won't worry about it. Let's see what you can do to research that after the meeting.
Yeah,
Get us
will
the
do.
compilation of the existing minutes to include this meeting. All right. So let's move on. You have anything, Tom?
No.
Kevin?
No, sir.
Updates, okay, I don't either. Oh, except, you got the truck going, the new truck,
Yes.
okay, just was curious the only question I had was, when did we get that truck, on the road?
Oh, jeez. I can't give you. Right off the top of my
Was
head. I
it
think
before
was-
Christmas,
Oh, yeah,
way before?
yes. It
Think
was
of that.
before.
And you've had the trailer restored too, and so.
Yes,
and
I
you-
haven't finished with everything because I still have to have it spray foamed and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Rather than injuries.
Okay, and I know you've been using it to go visit people. So, okay. All right, well, at some point, part of your report ought to be what in the county kind of things you've been doing.
Okay.
With the people, not necessarily what you can't say from the privacy point of view, but that you've been going out doing X. Somebody had asked me about the suicide prevention kind of stuff. There's things you do or participate with, counseling or stuff like that, I assume.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and that would be in person, most likely.
Yes,
more
it
than having
is.
them
It's
walk into the.
Yeah. If I have a meeting, and I've met with various people, if I have a meeting that is something that is not pursuant to privacy that I can share, I will do so. And if you guys have questions other than that, I can give you general information.
Yeah.
But it's pretty hard for me to give you things that.
No, that's right.
$73,000 a pot.
Yeah.
You get charged.
Okay, that's right. And the other thing, we bought that pickup a long time ago
Back in,
because it was on.
Yep.
That's when you received it, but then we put in for the grant way
Oh, yeah.
earlier than that. So that's,
yeah, two
So,
different grants.
I think it would be a good idea to get, because I've been getting a lot of questions on, all of a sudden it
Okay.
popped up and they're saying, how do we afford that? Is to put in and get Jennifer to come up with a gee whiz, did you know, the trailer's
Sure.
pickup has been restored, done, all because we've had this, been going on for 2 years, whatever it's been. So they understand why and how much, yep, I know it was, and how many, why it's necessary. It's something really good to make sure. All right. So that's all I had. All right, looks like Dorothy's up.
Not already?
Can I,
Yeah, unless,
Jack, because I would like to read it straight into
sure.
the report here if I may. Because we have things that are in general, which is the BOH report, so just kind of started off. Just comments real quickly. Reports from Harvard and Israel and others are questioning the value of our vaccines, but many other reports are saying just the opposite for grandchildren and high-risk adults. So the port of the vaccines continues with older adults in almost every study around.
Which vaccines?
The vaccines for COVID
Okay,
and for flu, because flu killed a lot of elderly people. So flu for RSV, all the vaccines, we really have to watch for older population particularly. And in that line on Friday, we once more have the last of our buses coming in to give vaccines. But they've told us that since July. So the channel is still open. But
so has that been advertised in the paper? Do
well,
people know?
I went into the radio, but not into the papers. People don't seem to really pick up on it, particularly from the papers, but they pick up on it when they drive by and the big colored bus is sitting there. Except at this time, it's going to be, and that's why I contacted the radio. It will be at the Public Health Agency right next to us, so they can still see it from 96 and see it from Hermit Lane. Yeah. And we have been sprayed, excuse me.
So that bus is coming, is it a multi-purpose visit or is it
Yeah.
only for your vaccine for the COVID?
No, it has always been for kids, for adults, but they have tried to get flu vaccines and have been unable to do so.
So it's only COVID.
Yeah, only COVID. Yeah, we had been able to gather the flu vaccine. We've been using bunch of giving them again and again. But I don't know because they didn't know when I talked to them just last week, you know, what's going to do to bring in.
Well, it's really confusing.
Yes,
Is we keep telling them the buses are done, and then all of a
Right.
sudden they show up, and I get calls. I've gotten several that said,
Yep.
"What? I thought we were done with that."
and I thought we were done with that because that's what they assured me. They can't get any more. The governor said no. And then we can have 2 weeks later,
So this is supposedly the last time.
again.
Okay.
This is and again last time. Even this last week, Christie phoned me and said, we have no indication that it's going to be there in March.
Yeah, so the OEM is still working the vaccine program. Meeting scheduling, that's what
Oh,
the state
okay.
was divided up.
Okay.
I'm not, you're working it here. I'm just
Right.
talking. There's,
Yeah. Still working. CDPHA is still pushing.
point is, we're not ordering the bus in here. It's,
We don't at all.
okay.
No, they just phoned up and said, this one we can come and say, okay, if you would like to. Anyway, it's gonna be at the Public Health Agency this time. In general, reports from Colorado and the other states continue to state that approximately 50% of the positions in the public health sector are open at this time. We even have several directorships. And of course, this drives up the demand because we have so many openings, and then the hospitals can't get people, and so they start bumping the pay and bumping. Well, we have $220,000 salaries plus $30,000. These are for nurses.
To compete with. But
Yeah, to compete with, you know, so it just puts everything into a crazy mode.
so you said 50% of all Colorado health agencies are,
We have across.
well, actually,
the board-
all health agencies are 50%
Right.
manned,
Right, essentially, right now,
if you average it.
Yeah. because they can't get the people.
All right.
We have recruitment enhancing actions are being developed, even pursuant past what they had been developed before with the work support. So they're developing more in the state and the regional organizations for mental and social health. Organizations are also doing it. And so we're trying to, as Tom knows from our work there, trying to entice social workers and psychologists and anyone in behavioral mental health workers into the rural areas. And it costs so pick and much. And I spent 2 full days last week, literally covering 24, 25 different applications. After a while, they all look the same, but of people who want the stipend that we're offering to try to bring them in to the mental health, because we have such a deficit throughout all of our.
You have lots of people to pick from.
Yeah, lots of people to pick from, but we're using and I don't know if you guys know, so just stop me if you don't, or if you do. You know that there are large settlements, monetary settlements from the tobacco companies and various drug companies and so on. And so we're able to use to access that money to be able to pay people to try to get workers into the field. And what we are offering right now in our membership of behavioral support is a $500 a month stipend for covering food and housing, because it's so much more expensive to get them here. And so the guys that are starting out, who might try to go into rural areas, can't afford to go into the rural areas to provide their services. So anyway, that's the program, just bare bones.
It's a food allowance, basically.
It's a food and housing allowance, so kind of a combination. And a lot of people that I read through said, yeah, I need something, because right now we're having to go into deficit spending in our local home budgets to even pay our bills.
Okay,
So anyway, so in Custer County specifically, actions are taking place to improve waste and sewage disposals, to protect waters and waterways and wells and so on. And the cautions and closures of Lake Delis that we're kind of getting used to. In fact, Justin said, I'm just going to leave the cautionary status up there all the time. I'm not going to change it because we don't ever get out of caution with the amount of algae that's being grown. So
even now with as cold as it is,
even now but nobody's out there waiting,
yeah, nobody's doing anything.
But from people that I've spoken to, there's one particular lady that told me that she used to enjoy being out in Lake Delis all the time, and now it's pretty well prohibited. So, anyway, just food for thought. Anyway, when we can't bring this in, we can't have people coming in really and opening it up, and the word's getting around. A lot of people just don't come, and that affects the quality of life. It affects incomes for the whole Willamette Valley. So some of our discussions between their department and my department, and this is the segue, this is taken, okay, have been, I think, potentially fruitful, that we need to be able to offer these people some possibilities when they're getting charged $1,000, to get a septic tank put up. So that's more than some of our people here in the valley can handle. So we've got to work on some things. Please, Dorothy.
Moving on to my report.
Moving on to your report.
Sorry that I should have had it to you ahead of time, but it's been a work in progress up until the minute we walked in here. So just to kind of recap our observations of the Lake Louise area, right now we've identified at least 15 parcels that are currently using an outhouse. It's an active outhouse. Some are chemical toilets, but I was shocked at actually how many live outhouses we have out there.
Dropping it in the ground.
Mhm. Yeah. So we have done a cease and desist on those outhouses. So
All
basically, we
15?
went out and, we don't have all 15 of them done yet, but the majority of them have been tagged as not usable. And since I'm bringing that up, I do have a question, so I'm going to ask it. It's kind of off kilter to what I'm talking about, but I don't want to forget. I just had Clint sign a bunch of cease and desist orders. I'm assuming I can no longer use those. Is that correct?
Shouldn't be, that should still be valid. You bet.
Use them?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can take a cop with you and
Okay.
you can execute them.
Oh, I forgot.
I just wanted to make sure it was okay to still use
Sure.
his signature. So, okay.
It's like a Supreme Court judge dying, his orders are still valid.
Perfect. All right. I just wanted to make sure. There's general concerns across the board with septic systems in the area, many holding tanks and very, very old systems. We have systems out there were put in back in the 70s. And I know that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not functional, but it's a high indicator that they may not be.
Septic systems,
Yes.
tanks, you mean, and leach fields.
Correct. We've been pretty much going door to door, looking into the systems, walking. A lot of them are seasonal properties, so we're able to walk up there and take observation of what's going on with the systems, not necessarily opening them up or anything, because most of them are pretty difficult to find. Many of the parcels don't have any septic information on file in the planning and zoning office. So we've created a letter asking for verification of systems. If there's a dwelling there, we're hoping that there's some type of system that they're utilizing. And sending a letter basically asking, do you have any information on your septic system? If so, can you provide any information that you may have, the size of it, when it was last serviced, things like that. Just trying to gather as much information as possible. So far, I think we've only had one person respond to that letter and provide us information about their septic system. So that kind of scares me. We've sent out quite a few letters and we have a lot yet to send out. The 4 lots along the bank are of the, probably the greatest concern. Because you definitely, in doing an aerial photo, can see the black dirt or that. And I've talked to several people and they tell me that's a clear indication that there's issues possibly with the septic system. Because you can see the, I don't know if we can show them what I'm referring to. You can see how there may be possible leakage from or drainage of some type that may not be
Yeah.
of a normal nature.
Mhm.
One of those lots was identified as having a failed leach field, and they are, we did cease and desist that property. And we are working with that couple to try to get that system fixed. It's quite a large system. But I do have their cooperation that they're looking into it and trying to fix anything that's going on there. That may be causing any issues.
Maybe real quick, just on that note. So are they living there now?
No, but it's being used as a VRBO.
Okay.
Is that the one with the above ground pumping uphill,
Uh-huh.
2 stations?
They actually have 3 tanks out there, 2 fairly large tanks,
Yes,
but it's their leach field that's failed.
right.
I was
That was
able to verify that myself. I went out there, Dennis with me. We dug up or kicked around until we found 2 of the inspection ports. One was full of black matter. And the other one was full of fluid. So it was obvious that there were some system issues with that leach field.
And the reason for my question is so, and that's part of, I think, what both of you said. If it had been somebody that was a, say, resident. Living in, if it was somebody that was, say, a resident of in the house full time. And you issued a cease and desist. Now you can't use the septic. What are their options at that point? If they're living in the house while they're trying to address the issue, you said they're cooperating, trying to get the system fixed. What is their recourse in the meantime between the time you've issued a cease and desist and the time that they get the system fixed?
And I can honestly say I've not run across that. Well, I'm running across that issue more and more. I ran across it this week. I have been trying to work with the individuals as much as possible. And I believe that's one of the questions as we get further into my report and what you guys kind of looking for your opinion on what you feel is a good recourse in those situations. I don't want to tell anybody you can't live in your dwelling any longer in the middle of winter. I think
Really can't do it anytime legally. You can if it's visible health hazard, just get them to stop. It becomes an enforcement issue, but it's got to be certified. And this is leaking, and here's what's going to happen if you don't do it. And that would probably then depend upon how severe it is. Is it backing up the system and overflowing on the floor, or is it overflowing out the outlet on the vent? There is no vent tubes on those old systems.
Right.
It just goes into the ground and it backs up and eventually plugs the whole tank up, and it'll back it up into the house.
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Can I ask for a quick timeout and make an introduction?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, we got somebody.
Feel uncomfortable.
Very interesting topic.
Yeah, so this is Randy Sneed, our rep for DOLA.
I knew who it was,
She
I
was,
was talking about introduce myself.
Yeah.
and I've met Randy before.
she was cruising through and I invited her to come in real quick. She wants to say hi to Jennifer. You probably haven't.
I haven't. It's
Okay, all right. So this is Kevin Day.
Pleasure to meet you.
Hi. And of course, you.
Randy, I thought you were coming to apply for a septic system.
Oh, you met him up at CCI.
Sure.
I met her before that,
Oh, did you?
talking to her when she was working for Christie.
Yeah, that was my life.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm glad you came in. You're.
Thanks so much for the intro. I'm gonna sit and listen for a minute.
Yeah.
I've got a head down to Fremont in front of the meeting.
Yeah,
soon, but
Mr. Ken is the chair of this.
This is
Board
a
of
hot
Health
topic in
meeting.
more places than
Yeah,
Custer. so
Dr.
I'm
Brown
just gonna-
is our Board of Health Director. So,
The Public Health Agency Director.
what did I?
Board of Health Director.
Yeah, he's our Public Health Director, yeah.
All right.
Sorry. So,
Nice to see all of you.
so anyway, thank you for letting me interrupt
Sure.
you.
So anyway, Dorothy, we gotta figure out, and I know that because they're part-time, that's not backed up into anything yet. And so, and they're not living in that one, but if you run into that, it is an issue. We gotta figure out how to handle that, which might mean putting in a chemical toilet temporarily or whatever to keep them, they have to be able to live. And those are exceptions that we can do.
So if, may
Go
I,
ahead.
go ahead. So now I'm gonna readdress that question, if it's being used as an SPR, which apparently this one is, correct?
It is not a legal STR. There's a lot of things that it is not, it's being advertised.
No, what you asked is.
Yeah, it
The answer,
technically is.
yes, it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be 9, it's supposed to be 9 big or something, and it's
No,
20 or whatever they're doing.
They're posting it as able to occupy 25 individuals. I was told that they're not using, so they have what they call the lodge. And it's houses so many, and then my suspicions are that they're also renting out what they're calling the tower. Just from what you can visually see. from doing that.
yeah, he asked you if you was currently being used as one. You said it's not a legal one.
But I,
Is
you
it
Currently being used.
They
you
are-
referenced it
They
as,
stopped.
Yeah,
From what I
now you have a
understand.
legal deal on it.
so. So I'll rephrase my question in a generic term.
Sorry.
If this were an issue with an existing STR on the books and in good standing and everything else. So then they have a cease and desist on their septic, that would, at that moment, put a cease and desist on that short-term rental. If that would be my,
I would.
It breaks the stipulation on the STR.
I would think,
because,
Yes.
That's right.
because it's part of their.
Condition, I should say.
Part of the requirements are that they have a functional out system,
Yes,
Right.
sir.
so.
and the one we're talking about does have a cease and desist on it,
They
correct?
do.
They do now.
So,
Yes.
so now, so basically they got 2 cease and desists, they got one for the STR, now they got one on the out system.
Yeah, that
Yes.
outs
It
causes
is the
the other one
entire-
to be not meeting the requirements, so it has to, that had to be posted on there.
Which is probably not a big deal. This particular one probably is not renting a lot of rooms this time of year anyway.
They had it rented over the holiday season and two different renters, one over Christmas and one over New Year's. And I did allow them to have them there. They had their tanks pumped prior to the visits. So they shut off the pump. And that was the 2 tanks were basically being used as a holding tank
Like
to
a,
allow them to have.
it's like a vault, they turned them into a
Correct.
vault,
Correct.
which is
So it
legal,
wasn't-
yeah, I mean, that meets the requirement.
Yeah, so. it
Not
wasn't-
as an STR.
Right.
But if they were full, they'd continue to function as a septic system, correct? When you
No,
say they
this-
turned off their pumps, are these engineered?
It's an
Yes.
Engineered system.
Tom, it's
Very
a-
large engineered.
Yeah,
system.
I'm really familiar with it because I actually worked on it 6 years ago or 7 years ago. It's 2 tanks staged and the leach field's on top of the tanks back behind it. So it grinds it up, pumps up, and goes back and the leach field goes out. And so they've had, and if it's not being used much and it was used full time, it could freeze up. But that's not the case here. It probably had a different kind of failure on it because the sounds like leach field's not even doing anything. So now they can pump the tanks. I think they're 1,500 gallon tanks each
And just use them as a vault?
and just using it as a vault. And that would allow, and that's another thing she can do on the homes. They can allow that to happen while they fix the problem with the leach field. I've done that before where you just cut into it, you put a new leach field out and you bypass the old one and make it
In this
legal.
case.
This case you can't because there's no room.
I did help them out with, apparently we had it mapped wrong in the assessor's office. So we did gain just a little bit more space.
Not enough.
The
ground.
road was expanded somehow and it cut off part of their property. So they had limited space, use of space there.
Hmm.
They didn't gain a lot of room, but they gained a little bit.
I just don't see how logically, when they set it up, it was for people living in it and they were gonna have part-time, some people come, but to have people using it, I don't see how they'll ever be able to commercialize that again.
I truly believe that they knew there was issues with it and that was being piped down into the lake. But I.
Originally, all those systems went toward the lake.
That is why we did the immediate cease and desist on it. The other properties along there. The one right next to the lodge to the left.
Are you talking the other 4 lots that you mentioned here? You say 4 other ones are
Yeah.
concerned.
I believe we do not have information on, we don't have any septic information on these ones. None of these along here, nor that one. That one appears to be abandoned, that white one there. It appears to be abandoned. We don't have any septic information on it. However, we did see a
Can you see a
septic
tank?
tank there, a lid.
That's hard.
So there's something
When
there.
you see a lid, that's more recent because the old ones were all buried.
Yeah.
Well, this is the motel. It used to be the motel.
It appears to be abandoned, but then that's kind of questionable. We're kind of wondering. And so is who was it, who was it you talked to, the homeowner? No, we did talk to the homeowner. They're out of California.
The
Jason,
guy, yeah, Jason. Yeah.
the Forest Service. He was kind of monitoring that particular property, suspecting that there may be squatters living in there, so we're not quite sure if it's abandoned or empty, or if there's somebody in there utilizing the property.
And you know who the landowner is?
We did finally get in contact with them. I tried finding a phone number for them. I left messages, I think, on 4 or 5 different numbers, never did hear back from him. We sent him a letter and he finally did reply to the letter. He called our office, so he's aware and gonna have a neighbor look into what's going on over there.
So if I may, Mr. Chair,
And
all these C and Ds on here, I'm assuming the greens are issues. I got interrupted because
Those are parcels that have a dwelling that we have no record of a
Oh,
septic system.
so there's an issue with all those in the greens and then obviously
Yeah.
the C and
They're just
D
flagged.
marked.
Yeah,
How long are those C and Ds in place for until the issue or the issue is remedied or? Excuse me.
this one I've been in contact with, this one up here I'm working with, he's a veteran. I did call Jared to see if there's any way we can get any assistance for him to get his RV moved closer to the septic system.
he's living in an
He's
RV.
living in an RV and dumping his waste in a cutoff inspection port. It's not an ideal
He
situation.
doesn't have it's not the front end of the leach field.
There's a system there, but it's probably 200 yards from where he has his RV parked. Jared helped him, I believe, last winter get electricity to his RV. He's renting the land. There is a dwelling there that probably needs to be taken down. It does not look livable. The dwelling's connected to the current septic. But what we're gonna try to do is see if we can't get some funds somehow to help him out.
You have a sketch of that or not? Is there a permit on that one? Must be.
The only thing we have is a copy of what's on here. I don't have a sketch of that.
I was just wondering,
I'm sorry, it's
you said it was an inspection port, that
I believe
implied that
that's
it,
what it is. for
but if
me.
it's 200 yards away. And he's at the end, that would mean he's downhill on the leach field and he would be trying to push it up. That can't be possible.
It's a flat lot, so it's
Well,
like he's
no.
over here.
But whether it's
She's got
flat or
that
not, it's
picture.
irrelevant. It's which way, because even in a flat lot. The leach field's made to go downhill, meaning down,
Huh.
slope, right, a grade. whole quarter inch. Foot.
Possibly.
Yeah, I've been on
So this
that
is one
particular
side
lot.
of his, so
He was
he's
trying
dumping
to clean
it.
it up. He
This is
came
where the
in this
house is.
morning.
His camper's
sat
way
down
over
and talked
here.
Quite a
And
while.
this is on the back side of the
I,
house.
like I said, I called Jared.
Could be
I haven't
the
heard
front.
back from him. I just
That
thought if we
inspection
could, if
board
we could
that have
find
a
some
pipe.
funds to help.
This
him
is all we could see was
Get
this.
something
You look at that,
connected.
can't.
Yes,
Because right
so
now what he's doing
he
is.
could dump it there
He's
or he
not
cut the
tied
lid
into
off of
that
that.
stuff.
He
See,
is
that's
not
all
tied
I've
into
done
the
that.
septic and his RV is over here by the electric pole and the
Yes.
septic system's over here about 200 yards. And the hole that he's dumping it in is an inspection port, I believe,
Hmm.
which I guess,
Then it's just dumping in the pipe, Dorothy, because if it's up downhill from the
And then you
leach
cut the
field,
pipe off.
downhill mean the underground
Dump it in this.
slope.
Mhm.
Because if it's an inspection port, it's either at the front of the, or it's at the back.
It's in the back,
And
I
so,
believe, based on what little information
is,
we
then-
have and being out there and observing what's laid,
Okay.
the layout. And it's just, he cut the inspection, the lid.
I saw that. So is the front near the house?
I believe so,
Okay,
yes, yes.
so that's how it is backward.
So
That's
And
bad.
you use
he's
the,
dumping in it. Oh, go
no,
ahead.
I was just gonna tease you a little bit. You use the term house pretty loosely there. 'Cause
Well, his shack,
It's a shack. Jackie and I made several visits to that property and
It
it's
is.
ugly. And it's hard to tell what's what out there.
It is, very much.
There's so much junk and crap piled around. I'm surprised you even found the septic tank, let alone have an idea where the leach field is.
so he can't even use it as a vault because it's backwards.
I believe
You
so.
can't get
And
pump
he's-
it.
It looks like he's dumping on the down gradient.
That's what I'm
end of
saying.
The whole system.
So therefore,
We have a septic contractor that's volunteered to potentially go out there. We're still in the works of trying to work it out on Sunday. We're gonna get a hold of, his name is Shotgun.
that makes sense then, because he could be helped by finding the front end of it and pumping it and using it as a vault until he gets something figured out.
Yeah, if we can somehow tap into that tank and put an RV port in there for him or something, I think that would be really.
That tank's gotta have a front end on it. It's gotta have a
Yeah.
pipe going somewhere.
So we have someone lined up, we believe, to go out there on Sunday if we can work it out with the gentleman. And then like I said, called Jared to see it. I don't know if he has any funds or anything that he could use to help. Do we have any funds that we could use to help this gentleman?
So when you say help, you mean get his RV located closer to the
Correct.
septic tank, which may mean moving electrical. Does he have
Exactly.
water?
I think his water is brought in, it's a cistern.
Okay,
He own the ground?
no. He rents the ground, right?
Renting the land,
Sounds like
hoping
it.
someday. buy
That's
it.
the owner's issue then.
Say that again.
That'd be the owner that would be responsible. He's not.
Very true.
And so
And I don't believe that they will,
if they don't,
based
then
on the
he's gonna have
information
to
in the
move.
file, I don't believe that they will do anything to help.
Yeah, that's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I mean, I think if Jared had funds
If he
for
did,
that.
that's
certainly
my
could. I'm
point
not
is
sure about the county.
countywide,
Yeah, I don't know about
Yeah.
that, but
but Jared and he came in here earlier and said he's out of money. And then,
Okay.
what do they call it? The Veterans Trust Fund is, they're not even applying for one
You know,
next year.
his biggest operational grant that he normally works on.
So that's a quagmire.
Shocky darns.
Okay, so we're getting on kind of off track.
Yeah.
You've got others to worry about.
Where did I leave off?
You got 4 lots.
We got the letter, yeah, the 4 lots along the bank are the most concerned. You know, I was shocked in looking at some of these files and how we allowed people to not vacate lot lines, but divide lots that are even less than an acre. It's,
Remember, this is back before
I
72.
know,
And
I
there's
know.
many lots exist with 50-gallon tanks still dumping in a leach line with whole percolate.
So part of the challenge out there is that the lots are so small. It's virtually impossible for 2 neighbors to have a leach field and a septic system
That's
and a
true.
well.
And to put a new one in, they can.
You know, I did find in one of the files that 2 neighbors were allowed to share a leach field. Is that even possible? I have not done.
Might have been back then.
Say that again.
May have been back when it was permitted.
Yeah, you know, now I would think the only way that would be legal was if that septic tank was installed and engineered and permitted for more bedrooms, and at least an equal number of bedrooms of both of those people that want to share it, right?
Or if they each had their own tank and it fed into that leach field, and the leach was large enough to handle both tanks. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
Big enough for the
Would have had to be.
bedrooms, it's not the
built
tanks.
Right, yes,
So
tank would need to,
Because it's
Right.
really the leach field.
it's
that's
just the leach
determining
field that
factor
determines
here.
it. And then you have to, and then the gallons is part of it too. So if it requires another set of gallons, that's why the other one had 2 tanks.
it's just
But-
some food for thought, and I don't know if that's an avenue we want to try to pursue. If we-
Pursue what?
Allowing people to share the same leach field.
Well, I think, isn't there some, I think the new requirements are each property has to have it. I don't think it's allowed to cross property lines, period. That's my understanding.
Then that answers that question.
But we
Yeah,
can,
that'd be a legal question, all right. Sure.
that's, and that's because they don't want, you could gang up a bunch of lots, all the time. If it was legal, then you'd have a commune septic system, it'd be like a city septic system.
But if a septic system out there, let's say, was permitted for 3 bedrooms. And 2 adjoining landowners each had 1 bedroom. There may be. the
You could, but
possibility.
then it would have to be, then it would be them. I think legally they still got, it's 2 lots.
Agreed, if,
But if
I'm
they
saying if there
could
was-
vacate the lot line and partner on it, it's one property and they could
But then you'd have
gang
a
them together.
multi-dwelling, and there's a lot of that going on out there. You'd be surprised.
Yeah. Anyway,
and do those, where we just keep getting further in the weeds, which it's legitimate. So pre-1971, can there be multiple dwellings? And if we vacated a lot, now is it 2023 or is it still pre-1971? I would imagine they could have multiple dwellings on a lot.
you
in
can't
1971.
go out and say your system's older than 72 and then you're illegal. That's not true.
And
The
that's
only
not
way you
my
can,
intention.
no, I know, it says legally that won't happen, but what does catch up with them is when they try to upgrade it or sell
Right, and she could say they're illegal if they're not functioning.
it. Or that's true, if it's backing up and
And
it's
if
a
we
problem.
have to put a cease and desist, they have to upgrade, then they have to meet.
Then they
the
have to meet the
standards.
standard, and that would be an engineered system up on top, and nobody's gonna build up for it now. On a 100 by 100 foot lot.
Well, and that's a great question and one I was gonna ask. I'm assuming the only engineered septics down there are the ones really close to the lake.
There's only one, there's
of
only
them
one
that I'm
there.
aware of.
So I would guess those up away
of
from
them
the lake wouldn't probably have to be engineered.
No, not because it's too small, Tom. Right now they're in a 100 foot lot.
Yeah, if they can't get a leach field in.
That's
then
right.
Yes, I agree.
Cause right now they got a leach field in it and shoot, it might be crossing boundaries the way they did it then, who knows? But it doesn't matter. It's legal for now. And if it's not backing up and becoming a health hazard, then they're not.
I'm not even joking when I said I could talk sewer runs all afternoon.
You really lead a poor life of enjoyment here, if that is tweaking. Yeah. No, that's neat, though.
You have
That's-
other
Well, it's
meetings
great
here,
to-
Thanks for coming by.
Yeah,
Playing
meetings.
better.
meetings here in the county.
I had one this morning and I've got some stuff to do, so.
Well, good to see you.
Thanks for stopping
Nice
by.
to meet you.
So nice to meet you.
I was just kidding you. That was just
So if
kidding.
a septic tank was capped on the outflow, could it be used as a legitimate legal vault?
Yeah.
And that may be the answer eventually, right? As all these small properties, they may just have to go to. a
Matter of
vault
fact,
system.
Tom, you remember there was one kid came in here with a brand new mini home, mini house, and that's what he had. He put a 300-gallon tank in a vault, and that was, the people didn't want it. They wanted to have a septic system because they wanted to not just. be-
And vaults are legal?
Mhm.
Yeah.
If it's an acre or less.
Oh, really?
No,
And generally speaking, how much it cost to pump a vault now? 700,
Same as anything.
800,
Seven,
same
eight,
as a septic tank.
depends,
and
sometimes 1,000. It just depends.
And that's gonna be another issue in the long term that would maybe not make a vault a viable option. is-
Not if you're a
because
full-time
people aren't gonna be
resident.
able to pay to get a vault pumped every 6 months.
You know, if you, if you have a vault, kind of like if you have a septic system, can you then use a composting toilet? Is it legal to use a composting toilet in conjunction with a vault, like you use a composting toilet in conjunction with a septic system?
Yes.
Yes,
I would think so.
and then, but you have to have a septic system too.
It has to be connected to the vault then.
It has to be right, it would have to be
To a
connected
vault
to the vault.
or a septic.
But if they really, I'm just feeding off, if they really were not using the vault, but they had it there to make them legal, then they could use a composting toilet effectively, just like I did in
Yeah.
Canada for 4 years.
Sure.
Okay. So that is a possibility,
Yes.
and chemical toilets are not cheap, but it might be a lot cheaper than paying $800,000.
And moving, and eventually that person will sell, and
Right.
eventually all those lots will get merged somehow and be developed.
Yeah, and that's another great question. What happens to a given parcel out there if it changes hands? Now, can they continue to use a broken illegal septic, or is that the threshold that now requires them to upgrade their septic to meet?
You have to meet. the new-
Realtors will have a fit
I think they're already facing
Well,
in
that.
case, but
It just depends on who you speak to, because a lot of the realtors are pushing a buyer to
upgrade.
require in their contract that the system be inspected and pumped. Some of the realtors don't, they don't.
They
come
do
in.
it because of insurance too, and
Yes.
And banks.
banks
Lending
require it.
agencies
So
require.
that's what's gonna drive all the cleanup eventually.
You know,
That
and
could
I.
be years too.
Sure. But
we're
in the meantime,
one-
they're not doing much. If they're not there to use it, it's
Right.
not really, it's okay to sit there.
We are one of the only counties that doesn't require you to have your septic system at least pumped, if not inspected before
A sale.
a sale.
But the
And that is
lenders
a
do,
decision you guys would have to make.
the lenders do though.
Hmm.
The lenders do, the mortgage companies,
could
do, the
require
title
that,
companies
yeah.
do that.
But a lot of counties
Most of them do.
have
Mhm.
made it a requirement to do that upon sale of the
Sure.
property. Which, if that were the case, would eliminate a lot of the problems with these houses being sold
And they hiding the fact that it's.
and hiding the fact that there's an issue or that they've added bedroom and their septic's now not supporting it. And that's a big issue in our county.
Can we talk about your next bullet?
Sure.
Because I think that's very interesting. The word is out.
Oh, yeah, the word is out at the lake. We've received calls from several people and you mentioned when I gave my monthly report that you've received a call. You know, for the most part, it's been somewhat positive. Once we explain what we're doing, we explain what we're doing and what our end goal is, then they kind of calm down.
Yeah, there is no grandfather that
They think they're
they think it is
grandfathered in.
because they've been there for years and.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
And at one time, those outhouses were grandfathered in, but once the state made that change in the regulations and we did as well, then that ended that.
That happened a long time ago.
clause. And most of them, when I get to looking through their file, they were notified. They know there's been conversation and or letters back and forth,
But,
but just no follow-up.
but many, it's not many, it's several. I don't think how many you got, 100 or you had 3.
For which one?
Many believe their grandfather. I don't know of 2.
Yes, many's probably too strong of a word. Several of them do.
And you've got a couple guys cooperating with you.
Yeah, for the most part, they're cooperating with us and going along.
How many do you think have functional illegal outhouses?
What do you
Yeah.
mean functional?
That they're using them, that they're illegal, not chemical toilets, just the outhouses, live outhouses. How many do you think? 10?
Yeah.
Out there.
And I would guess they probably, those 10 believe their grandfathered in, or they wouldn't be doing it, right? Or they just don't
They
know the
just
law.
don't know.
But
And they'll say, oh, we're not using them, but They put a skylight, they got an air freshener and a roll.
And a radio player.
And a path.
Yeah.
It's like a cow trail.
Used to be. able to-
Actually, they're connected to the house, aren't they? Aren't they?
No.
Some of them are
No,
inside. No,
We do have one that's a chemical toilet that they have creatively attached to their septic system.
yeah,
Now, how that is, I don't know, but,
okay.
I would think. if we go
Okay,
through
so you're
that
making us
first-
aware, there's no, I don't know, Dr. Brown, do you test to make sure they're not, doing something? What do you do?
In dealing with the testing, it's a tough slug to get ground tested. It's a long time, it's expensive. Because there's so many contaminants that are potential into open ground. So my question, my concern is that this lodge or whatever they call it may be actually contributing to the lease.
Sure it is, but I think that's the only one.
Yes, probably so,
like-
but that's granite out there. And you don't have a lot of soil covering rock.
That's why they have it on top.
Yeah,
I believe that all four of them along there, if not the fifth one further over, have all got issues.
They probably do.
And they're contributing to the problems.
yeah, so we're growing algae.
The big problem is the meadows. That's what caused them. This is an issue.
Yeah. There are 4 other parcels that we are actively working with. 2 of them are in Wetmore. One is just outside of Silver
England
Cliff.
has a problem.
Not till somebody found it.
Can we speak right in the mic, sir?
Did you
Yeah.
say 4 more or 2 more?
Four more total.
It's RVs being used without a septic. I had one gentleman just completely admit to me that he actually dumped his waste in Lake Louise recently. So, I'm trying to work with these individuals because I know it's winter and it's gonna be difficult for them to get somebody to put in a septic system, but they've been dumping their waste on the ground quite some time. So, I guess. I
Well,
don't
that
know
goes
what
back
kind
to
of
the,
timeframe we want to give the individual.
what you do is you put a cease and desist, and then here's how much time you got. And get it, it's only gonna be 2 months and the sun's gonna be shining, so.
And that's
Figure it
what
out
I,
and make, and if he's got the vault capability, then it's a piece of cake.
these are non-lake, these 4 are non-lake parcels. One is of great concern of leaking into a neighbor's well. The neighbor is
Downstream,
somebody that works is a volunteer, very much active in our community. And is very concerned that their well is soon to be compromised. And in the midst of going there to investigate that situation, I turned into the wrong driveway and found another major issue. So I'm, like I said, trying to work with them. What I'm doing, since it is winter, asking them to at least make a good faith effort to prove to me that they're dumping their waste, that they can provide receipts showing where they're dumping in their waste, and having them at least get their permits lined up and a contractor set up in the future with a future date as to when they can get the septic systems installed.
okay, so in order to keep it going, then you're doing the right thing. And that is, yeah, keep you monitor it, and you give it. You make time, come back to us after you guys have worked out things, and here's your plan. Here's what we're gonna do, and we can either agree or disagree or come modify it for you.
Yeah.
But we need something to work with, but this, you brought it to our attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I may, real quick, I'd like to
Yes.
read a statute out of here, 2510-112, number 3, a person shall not connect more than one dwelling to the same on-site wastewater treatment system unless such system was specified in the application of the permit.
What was that 2510?
2510-112, number 3.
So it's one dwelling and then you can have like a garage with one going into it, as long as that was put in up front.
If it was permitted in the
At
original
the point of the
application.
application, so you can have, as long as you don't exceed the sizing requirements for
Okay.
bedrooms or.
So I'd say in this case out here, it's not gonna be legal to let two residents share
Right.
What was her thought?
yeah, no, I still think probably on these small lots, the ball's gonna be there.
I don't think you can even permit if you knew it up front.
Yeah.
But you can't for sure the way that reads now.
Some possible solutions, and I'll kind of, let me give you a little bit of backstory as to where I came up with some of these solutions. A gentleman by the name of Mark Brainer came into my office to introduce himself. He is the new head of the HOA in Eagle Springs Ranch, I believe. He, in his coming in to introduce himself to me, we sat down and was talking for quite some time, and I learned that he is a veteran. His whole career in the Army was based on putting in sewer systems and improving waterways and stuff overseas and locally, or in the States as well. And I was about jumping out of my chair and he was explaining to me what he used to do. And so I started questioning him and what his thoughts may be out at Lake Deweese. He had a lot of information to share and some great suggestions. He called it, and apparently a lot of people do call it lake disease. And I kind of made me sad.
It's just a water ski in there. I didn't mind it.
Kind of really.
I never got
sad
sick.
that our local lake is called that. And
Anyway, you got a lot of good ideas here. It looks like mushrooms and a bale.
his first and least expensive idea, and I think additional things probably need to come along with that, is to create a filter system where Grape Creek enters Lake Deweese. And that would consist of bales of hay placed in that waterway where it flows in and infuse those bales of straw. I said hay, bales of straw with mushrooms. He also suggested setting up multiple swamp areas along Grape Creek and putting cattails in there. You know, there's some concern that the cattails will run rampant and we'll have an issue with that all over in Lake Deweese. I'm not, I don't know that if he has a way to keep that from happening, I didn't discuss that with him that far. One of the things, and this has been brought up to me from multiple sources, is that it kind of seems if you backtrack when we stopped allowing individuals to use the lake as frequently as we had been in the past, once we stopped that, that's when the blue algae started. So that a lot of people feel that it's a lack of aeration coming through the lake, and it's not, with that being said, it's not, the water flow is not circulating, causing the
That's your fish tank at home proves then.
So is that a possibility? Can we open it up to more individuals? I didn't know that it was just the local.
That's not our call.
Yeah.
The Lake Deweese is actually owned by Deweese Dye Ditch Company, and the Parks and Wildlife is what they're now called, leases that for recreational use. It's probably the Parks and Wildlife that have the say on that. Because they're the ones that lease that for the recreational use, but the county has no say in that whatsoever.
Yeah, these first four. 1, 2, 3,
All out of our
5,
jurisdiction.
4 bullets, probably talking easily in the low millions worth of dollars to even begin.
Like,
with
this is
just
not
that.
the county to do.
And he's right, the Dewey Dye Ditch owns the reservoir. I believe
Upper Ark
there's-
owns the water.
Well, I think there's 12 water owners.
There are
in that
different
lake.
lakes, yes.
Different colors of water in
Yeah,
it.
that's true.
Upper Ark owns some, CPW owns some, Dewey's Dye owns a lot of different water owners in there. Then you start talking about doing anything different with the stream flow. Now you get into water rights and even probably is critical,
State gets involved.
evaporation. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking millions of dollars in years to address any of this.
Right now, the upper arc has a plan to raise the levels 6 feet. And that creates, a lot more surface area and more water to store that they would own. And that's gonna change the water line too, and it would probably impact those houses on the
That's
lake.
what I'm gonna say, what does that do to them?
They claim it's not gonna impact any existing,
No, they've already done the engineering. on it.
they've already got it done.
You know,
Anyway.
the results of any of those things would probably be good, but in this world,
Right, so from our point of view, the real answers are options on houses that exist as they're found for different reasons. And what are some options there that let them stay as a vault, chemical toilets, engineered systems. And if they can't afford it, that's up to the landowner to deal with it. You're gonna have to sell it or combine it. Or did you have a question?
Oh, well, I just, you may want to chat with, the sheriff's department on the use out of the lake, because they get a ton of calls. Because people that want to use it that are not landowners can only fish. They can't swim or do boats unless they're fishing. Only landowners can do that, from what I understand. But I would check with the sheriff's department, because there was a actual order that they have to enforce up there.
Okay.
So,
for a little background, we sat in this very room with. Dewey's Dye wasn't there that day, but we had the Park and Wildlife, Forest Service,
Yeah.
County, Sheriff's Department. Seemed like there was one other entity dealing with some other issues, but the other problem is BLM owns the land surrounding the lake. Dewey's Dye owns the lake itself, so
Right.
it's just a can of worms out there.
And so there's a caretaker directing traffic where you can't, and the issue was does he get to live there? And, he's got to move his, you're probably from there. Anyway,
So like we do with the lakes, there are 7 lakes in this parcel that we lived in. And they had pumps with, the sprays, so they're pumping it into the air and aerating everything and so on. And it seemed to work very, very well. And this is clear down in Alabama where the water is just awful. But that would cost, but I'm just wondering if we could run it by solar.
there's options, but it's not like Tom pointed out, it's just not our job. And
Yeah.
we don't own it and we don't have the money to support that. That would come from grants from all those other agencies, BLM, a lot of other people.
Yeah.
While Round Mountain has a dog in the fight because they're the ones that are polluting the lake the most right now.
And I think they do own a little water in there around Mountain,
Yeah, they
or
do.
at least the
They-
storage. That's a whole nother ballgame. Do you own the water or do you own store it there? Yeah, and then Colorado Water Conservation Board, Colorado Water Courts.
Hmm.
None of this would ever happen without going to court.
So the humane thing that you do as a county sanitarian is doing exactly what you're doing. Is as they come up. Yeah, get the gun out.
Yeah, your question there at the bottom, I think is a great question.
Yeah.
We've never had this discussion.
The sanitarian is defined by one sentence or something, some grade.
I've asked Braden, I sent him an email and asked him if we have a job description for the county sanitarian. I don't expect that we do, but
I'll have to look and see what I have. I don't know that it defines it very well. Really, my question in regards to that is. The county sanitarian does much, so if I talk to. Roger Kemper. He tells me, if I have a sanitarian issue, I'm calling you.
That's right.
I talk to Westcliff and they tell me, show me somewhere where you have jurisdiction here. So that's my question. I feel a lot of times like I'm
I
brought
think you
in.
do.
I just like to clarify that because I feel like sometimes I'm brought in at the tail end of something and then expected to fix it,
Because
but then not always kept in the loop as to what the final
you see,
resolution
if you
wise.
look at the big picture, they have a system, the town of Westcliff has a system, and they are accountable for that system, and if it spills sewage into the ground somewhere, that's your jurisdiction, period. Whether it's,
Okay.
you know, and that's what happens, and but you can't go in there and tell them, you know, your job is not to be policing their stuff. You know, that's why Roger said, I'm gonna call you the first time if there's an issue, because he wants to make sure that if it's leaking out of the pipes that are provided by Round Mountain, that it's, or it's a guy camping on the ground out there that, you know, in Silver Cliff city limits, and he's dumping on the ground, that's your jurisdiction.
Yeah, I think it would be her responsibility to make the
Yeah.
appropriate people aware of that as the county sanitarian. As I understand it, you have authority over this entire county,
That's true.
including Westcliff. They're blowing smoke out there.
And that's why I think it's important that maybe I start finding ways to build a better relationship and let them know.
And you do
who I
that
am.
easy, you know, just make it per PR runs and then say, and by the way, here's the rigs, and I'm just trying to do my job to help you.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm, you know, if you got somebody camping with a camper and he's out there dumping gray water on the ground in town of Westcliff, you know, that's a sanitation issue that
Okay.
they can make you aware of, and we can issue a cease and desist
Yeah.
for them, or they can do it themselves.
And you know what, given our circumstances, if you don't have a set of these in your office.
I do.
Okay,
They're probably
You
not the
better-
most current.
probably
year.
doesn't,
You can have ours used, each year we renew it.
That's
Right.
what I got was
Yeah.
last year's version, which is fine. I think I'm 2 years
Okay,
old.
well, we need to keep moving,
Anyway.
Dorothy.
We skipped the bullet point that talks about the resolution states that recreational vehicle parks and camping tent areas shall provide an authorized dump station. There is no dump station out at Lake DeVries,
yeah,
nor is there any sign that says, here's what you can do with your waste. And I believe that that's part of our problem.
and that's,
So do we change our resolution or do we hold the people accountable? that need
Resolution,
to
are
be
you talking
installing?
about our zoning resolution ourselves?
Correct.
Then we hold who's out there accountable them.
Who do we hold
We-
accountable for that? And
all
it's,
gonna park
if you
in
turn that one over, it's.
It would be BLM and people.
That's, you know, that's. I'm sorry. I
No, go ahead.
interrupted you. That's Parks and Wildlife, because they're the ones that are running that. And
They have a choice.
does that make them fall outside of our resolution? Because it is state land.
And that's why we had the sheriff in here.
Yeah, because what they do has nothing to do with what we do in the rest of the county. I'm looking for.
It's like state forest. You can't go up on the state forest and, you know,
They're
start
autonomous,
telling them that
they're autonomous to our rules,
So they have an outhouse in Alvarado campground.
so.
Right. So the resolution she's speaking of here is 6.1. And it's on the second page of her handout. So recreational vehicle parks and tent camping areas. So this county resolution pertains to the unincorporated portion of Custer County.
County ground.
And tent camping areas shall provide an authorized dump station for disposal of chemically treated sewage. Is that different than raw sewage? So
It is.
It's different.
if we permitted an RV park in the county, then I think this resolution applies.
Okay.
The one here in town doesn't apply to this, right? Because that zoning resolution is for the unincorporated part of
It
Custer
doesn't
County.
hold water for this one here.
And you can understand the chemically
Was
treated.
the one south of town here, was it in the
It's
county or
it's
was
in the
it?
town.
It's still in Westcliff,
Yeah.
so.
So, okay,
The only,
and I know this is off base, but so if someone comes up to put on, and I had this question come up. A cell tower on National Forest Service land, they still have to come get a permit from me. That's what I was told. So how is that any different? I don't understand the difference. I
I'm
just,
not sure what you just said is correct? It may be. I know we have a resolution on the height of a tower. And I think there's something in there about the square footage of the footprint of that tower.
Yeah.
Has something to do.
But
with
if it's on state
require a special
ground,
use
And
permit.
it doesn't have. anything
Doesn't
to do with
apply.
this, 'cause That's what we were told. I don't remember.
it doesn't
Yeah.
apply. That's true.
Okay, so.
So,
it's Federal.
Yeah, and
grant.
look at what that resolution really means. If you have chemical oil, which you have in your trailers. And they're just trying to tell you can't go dump it in a creek somewhere. You have to have a sign that says, go to this station and put it in there, because that's picked up by other, like a truck.
I'm gonna say, to the best of my knowledge, the only place in the island that applies here would be across D4,
That's all.
because they furnish tents and they furnish
That's true.
RV.
And they have a special use permit.
Yeah,
Yeah, they have to
Even
adhere to
ask The Forest Service to put up a sign to say, here are viable places for you to dump.
We
No.
could probably ask.
can ask them, but they're not obligated.
Right.
in the interest of being good neighbors, it would be good if they'd say yes, and we can ask.
Or if they had a place to do
Yeah.
it, they may not have a place to do.
And isn't it crazy how one little issue opens a whole can of
And
layers?
it's not.
And one thing ties to another, it's just insane.
So meanwhile, clean up our own house. And see where we are.
So, yeah, defining, I think I have a back page somewhere. I don't have it.
Use mine if you need it.
The other bullet point is on the back page, the disposal of septic systems currently going out of our county, and I think you brought up the lack, or the point of the water going out, loss of water for our county. It has definitely increased the cost to our residents.
That's why the cost is $800 a pump now, because of the gas.
Absolutely. Yeah, because of the price of fuel and the time that the pumpers are having to go back and forth. That's the feedback that I've received from them. You know, I strongly believe that there's opportunity, and I know I'm gonna get opposition on this, but there's opportunity for the county to increase our income if we would provide a dump site for people to dump their waste.
If you recall.
If I'm over in Fremont County and I'm taking my waste over there, if they're charging them that, I've heard between $800 and $1,000 for 3 dumps. And a pumper here in this county can do 3 in a day.
But you're talking about taking those to a developed wastewater treatment facility, right?
It can be as easy as land and us tilling the land up. I need to do a little bit more.
You can't dump it, you can store it, you can put it in a vault or something like
You know,
that.
you can dump it right out on, if we had property.
But it has to be lined, with a whole bunch of requirements for that.
It
There are.
depends on how long. If you lime it, it's sooner that you can use the property. If you don't lime it, it's 4 or 5 years. But if you're tilling it in. Sorry. It seems like we could do what Granite County has done. That's essentially set up a pressure plant where they're just spraying it, tilling it and charging it like they're making money.
Right. But they spend a lot of money to get there,
Oh.
but that's a possibility. You
There
can
is-
chase grants and all that. So if you want to chase them and come up with some options for us to go after grants, that's fine. But that's years in the making down the road. You heard what it takes, tilling it, aerating it, cultivating it, moving to another shot of ground where that works. I don't know the details.
If it's done properly. The land can
Yeah.
be used for certain purposes.
Sure, you can grow corn.
Yeah, anything not root.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
and, it's an opportunity, there's a definite need for it in our county. I think if we could make it feasible for people to afford to get their septic tanks pumped, that they would be more apt to do that. And I just feel.
I don't think they care where it goes, Dorothy.
I'm sure they don't
If it's
care where it
there,
goes.
as long as they can afford it, that's the
They
money
can.
talks.
And if
They
we
can
did it here,
afford
it'd
it.
be cheaper.
In the
Yeah.
process.
If they can do it here and rather than having Nordyke or whoever, dentist hauling it out of here. That's right. Well, that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
It almost would make one ask, is it feasible to have a wastewater treatment plant in this county? Not tied to the two towns.
That's right. So they'd have to, and that costs engineering money, feasibility studies, all that kind of things, but those are all grant capable things that we could entertain as an idea.
And I wanna say it's Park County, and I could be wrong on the county, I keep saying I'm gonna take a weekend and go visit or a day off and go visit this plant. I have a video, it doesn't give you a lot of information. There's, I believe it's Park County that set up a process or a plant where their pumpers in that area can go up to a gated off area. They punch in a code, the gate opens, they dump their waste into, basically they put in their code, and it measures how much waste they're dumping, and it charges them based
Sure.
on the amount of waste that they dump.
Neat idea.
It's all, from what I understand, that system was very expensive, but it was paid off in a year based on the income that came in.
Neat, but it took 10 years to build. We need to get the data and figure out how to get there. That's all I'm saying. Good idea.
And you're saying they're doing that in some county
I
here?
thought it was granite,
I don't know.
but I could be way off base. But yeah, I looked into that a couple of years ago and they're doing really well.
So that would be a good thing to propose at some point for us to match funds with county citizens' money. It doesn't grow on trees. And the grants that are available. I know rural counties get a lot of support at the state because they know we can't afford it.
And I believe that I had reached out to, I'm not sure what her name was that was sitting back here, and they won't offer a grant. What I was told is we would have to go through Round Mountain.
Well, that's because she's not understanding what's being asked, really.
Since we've been a commissioner, we have gone through the process to dump one pump truck full of raw sewage onto a piece of property in this county. And I told you about that. We did that because the sheriff's department had a pretty solid lead that there was a weapon thrown into a septic tank in the commission of a murder. So they went through CDPHE and got permission to pump that tank out, take it out on a piece of property, spread it out, lined it, but they spread it out, and Nordyke spent a couple of days looking for that weapon, never did find it, but they were allowed to do that. So is it possible? I expect it probably is.
Yeah,
What we
no
were
question.
looking into.
It's possible for a private landowner to do that, and the regulations for a
A
private.
private
landowner-
company could do that, or a landowner.
A private landowner, I could go buy 400 acres somewhere out in the county, and if I could
Get the
my
permit for it.
RV,
That's right.
Yeah.
But it costs money, and that's all my point. So good idea. All right, let's move on.
Can we ask landowners to clean out their septics and have them inspected? I mean, if it's past a certain age. Answer that question. And I just wondered what a fair time frame
It's
was.
like I
If
said, as
somebody-
long as it's not overflowing, backing up and causing something we can't do.
I don't think the current set of county commissioners want to put that kind of government on these citizens. There may be a
I
time.
mean, we could all of a sudden decide to do it.
Right, and I think
But
that's what
legally,
she's
there's-
asking. Could we
there's
do
no
it? I
legal-
suspect we could, but
No state legal requirement. They're not breaking the law.
Yeah,
but you get. you
Big
get
brother
some
coming in
commissioners
and
that
now I
do
see you
their
got
own
dogs
say.
too, let's, whatever.
I could see right in the permit language saying, we're gonna issue this permit for a septic system that has to be
Pumped
out
every 5 years.
That, I wouldn't support it, but there might be commissioners, but I don't think you can make that retroactive. It'd have to
No,
go on the-
capitalism and real estate sales drive it. Banks will make it happen, title research, you don't wanna have a system that's overflowing. I came in or even our own home, we had a cesspool, they were called cesspools in the day. And you'd get it pumped once in a while. When I got up here after my dad passed away, my mom's in a nursing home. Let's get Art out here to pump it. Dropped it in the lid, went 1 foot down, thunk. They, and it was still, so that happens everywhere, but it happens because you either care or you're selling the place.
And I think to your last bullet point, obviously, I don't know what's fair, but if we put a cease and desist on one, it'll stay that way until it's fixed, right?
And that's my understanding, and the property should not be used.
Right.
That's correct.
Now, about a system installed, that's pretty simple. You can't occupy a dwelling unless it is tied to a septic tank.
And we have some people that are in violation, quite a few of them, so.
As long as you know.
And that's probably where your question stems from, right? So how, obviously, they're put under a cease and desist. How long are we gonna allow them to, can they even live there with a cease and desist? Can they
Shouldn't be,
occupy it?
though.
Depends on what you can put that in it if you
But
want.
how do you walk up to somebody's house?
Right.
I'll give you the example of drive into the wrong driveway. Talk to the lady thinking I'm at the right house. And in the midst of my conversation, learn that she's not connected to a septic. She just lost her husband. It's winter. She has no place to go.
That's what I
Another
mean.
one that's a mother of 3. She's renting a place. The septic is leaking, possibly
So-
into the neighbor's well.
Yeah.
You know,
It's case by case, like we said before, and a cease and desist, you make them stop doing what they're doing, but you can allow it to, if under these circumstances, until you get it fixed, you can do X. That's up to you and us.
Yeah, and I would think the whole possibility of contaminating a well elevates that to the top of the list.
Sure does. And which would mean they have to get it tested, and you heard what he said, it takes.
And I-
coach to do that.
I've checked with here's what I run into. I check with social services. Because I know that there's children involved and there's no open housing in Custer County for those individuals to go to.
And meanwhile, they can test the water in the wells, which when you're buying a house, they do anyway, because they're
Yeah,
radon.
do that for $30.
Yeah,
Right, but if I'm the neighbor, I'm concerned.
well, if I'm the neighbor, I would be testing my well.
Right.
That-
The
That's up to
concerned
them.
neighbor, I think we should be telling her, hey, understand your concern. We
Can't order her to
either
do
will get
tests.
the water tested for you, or you get your well tested. I mean,
And we're having those conversations.
because the last thing we want to do is have somebody documented, sick, and we knew about it and didn't do anything. Weren't willing to spend $30.
Telling the neighbor to go test their well is what you can do. Can't order it.
What's the distance from the failed septic system to the well?
What's the distance?
How far away is their well?
The road, literally. across
Width of the road, so.
More than
60
75 feet?
Mm,
County
probably
road,
not.
60
Probably
feet.
about
So,
50.
so the leach field shouldn't have been in there. Where did the well get drilled after the leach field was
This is
installed?
probably before it was required.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
deep-
probably.
And what is the well, that's county again, but is it 50? Can't be any closer than 50 feet to the
100
well?
foot.
75 is the
100.
radius.
I thought it was 100 foot.
It's 100 feet from the well,
Is it?
50 feet from rock.
Oh, from the property line.
Right. Yeah, 75.
But a lot of that would depend upon the layers of or how things are layered
Yeah.
down there, whether it drains down to that well or someplace else.
Well, thank God. I'm not the county's attitude.
Okay,
Thanks.
what else you got, Cliff?
That's it.
All right, kiddo, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, guys. You probably didn't get one whit of an answer that you were hoping.
Oh, yeah,
for
she did.
today.
I was really hoping we could get some positive
Now,
out of the lake.
yeah. You know, and they've been allowed to do that crap. Didn't mean that word, literally, right? For years, nobody's ever taken this
That's
on.
the problem.
And so now, how far do you go and do you put people out on the street?
You're doing the right thing.
It is, you're doing the right
Do what
thing.
you're
It's
doing.
not gonna be easy. But,
Yeah, let's work together and see what we can come up with for variables, what we can offer.
some
right.
solutions possible.
Yeah. It's good to see your concern for the people that are there. You're not just blanketly, oh, you're in violation out, you're,
Working
because
with
you are concerned about the families that are there and stuff, which makes it all the more difficult.
It's not an easy
Right.
situation when you run across something like that.
Do chemical toilets have to be connected to a vault or a septic tank to be legal in Custer County?
Yes,
It can't be a dry composting toilet using solar. And you believe we have residences, occupied residences that are not tied to a vault or a septic system?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it has to be tied physically to the septic system. Because a dry chemical toilet doesn't have anything fluid.
Right, it never I mean, they use solar
Right.
chemicals to
Oh, yeah.
dissolve everything.
Yeah. We
But
use-
Yeah,
that's
but-
probably not what
but the
we're
reg
talking.
says you can't use that as and have a residence. It's got you can have one. But you have to have a septic system
Has to
too.
be
You're not
tied.
tied to it. It's
Okay.
just,
It
you're not
just has to be
physically
there.
dumping it into it.
Okay. But if they had something, some kind of a vault system, and they had a dry chemical toilet that was working,
That gets them by for a while,
yeah,
Oh,
exactly,
forever, for a long time.
yeah,
but meaning that they can work the cease and desist issue. Get, still.
Yeah.
live there.
to
The
negate.
septic tank is only for holding solids. The leach field is to deal with the water,
Right.
right? So I still think probably vaults are gonna be the way to solve that lake release issue. I don't know how else on these small lots, how else could you do that?
So. Let's quit beating a dead horse and we can do that.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
It'd be interesting to see how much a vault would cost, like 1,000-gallon vault, where you could give people some options and say, hey, here's what we've found.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, you gotta deal with this, we're done.
And we're trying to help
Yeah.
them, just like the one gentleman.
Well, I'd say the contaminated well and those folks that aren't connected to anything, meaning their raw sewage is going somewhere it shouldn't be, that should be at the top of the list. But
Yeah.
that's me.
They are.
Okay, thank you, guys.
It may be worth spending $4,000 for a tank and 2,000 to put it in the ground
Yeah.
to stay in your home,
What do you think a 1,000-gallon septic tank would cost from the beach?
2,500.
2,500?
Well, that's a one-time cost
Yeah.
to allow them to
To
live.
live there
Right,
as
to
long as
live,
they
stay
need to.
there,
And that's,
regardless
and
of how-
it depends on how often they use it, but
Yeah.
you can get 3 months worth of use in some cases, or a month,
Or 2 weeks.
I mean,
or 2 weeks,
I think we've had that down on
and you're strapped with it.
average water use per household in Custer County, right? I mean, we can find that out.
I know for a fact, after I had the failure I had out the house last Christmas, it took 3 months to fill it, 2 months. And a little over, little over, and we were a heavy user. That was during Christmas and everything.
And, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket
That was
scientist,
50.
those people live in a whole different world than the rest of us, right? We can't.
They're out there,
They're lucky they
Squalor.
Probably flush a toilet twice a day.
yeah.
If they have
Okay.
a toilet.
Well, yeah, let's move.
Okay, and this kind of segues into this whole thing, because we're from the last Friday at 12:58 or whatever, actually came off their boil water
Oh, yeah, they were. out.
requirement. So it can get really serious for your whole county if something is not done properly. Anyway, just wanted to mention that. We are going down as far as this craziness with COVID. The weekly epidemiological reports that came out of the School of Public Health up in Denver now have been made monthly. That should tell you a little something that it finally is winding down. There have been no change in the number of Custer County deaths for several months. And even that was applied for months before, so we're out of the woods there. Hospitalizations are way down. There was one thing that I tried to put out for Jennifer to publish around here, and there is a cream, and I think I put out that, did you guys receive that at all? Of the article relative to the DMBO. It's a Vietnamese cream for infants with dry skin, and lots of kids with dry skin. But it has so much, it's like 90 times the amount of lead that's allowed.
Oh, really?
And
That's why it works.
that's, yeah. Kids
Also
don't cry
kills you.
anymore at all, yeah, exactly, but literally, it's been pulled from the market. They only tested 3 products, and that one out of the 3 was awful. Anyway, so
So we have an issue with that.
DIEM, and then the second word BAO.
Bimbo.
So anyway. Recent activities, this finally getting our quote unquote again last month of our buses. In the disaster emergency planning, I'm still really pushing for some kind of protection for that lake to see if we can't reverse what we've had as far as the amount of algae growth, the bloom.
Okay.
Looking for that. We're also looking at I brought this up before, but this still to me is disaster just waiting to happen, because it is going to, and that's getting a fire up in our hills up here, destroying our watershed, then flooding like they had in Montana and so on last year. It can get very bad very quickly, and we would have disaster. So I would really love to see some kind of response. And if you'd like me to, I can go to the Department of the Forestry to see what we can do for fire prevention, to see what we can do for rapid response. Anything not to have all of the dead spruce trees that are up there.
I thought that's what
thousands of acres.
OEM was working with their hazard mitigation stuff.
Yeah, that's what I turned in as my project, you know,
Okay.
what I would suggest for them, but nothing has been done. And
Get with the new OEM and let's see.
Only
yeah,
on,
I dealt with him. I dealt with Mr. Christie just before. he
No,
came here.
I'm talking about Robin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
and I'm assuming all that would have to be on non-federal land, right? So you
Right.
can only
That's
You
right.
basically
can only
below the
team up.
Rainbow Trail.
That's right.
Everybody thinks we can do a lot of things in the Sangres. We can't.
Yeah, it has to be coordinated
And
efforts.
if they want to, I mean, because of that, they can put their grant money together and do it with us.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I haven't
Okay,
seen
but that's a
any
good thing to
indication.
be partnering with.
I'm not
The
gonna
next-
ask for a break, but I'm gonna run to back.
Do you want me to, I'll just wait.
No, keep going.
Okay. Excuse me, the next thing is something that Tom and I deal with on the governance council. The opioid response and fentanyl response. We have the naloxone planning and repositioning in schools, businesses, sheriffs, and posse's vehicles now finally.
Is that the thing you stick under your leg and cure? it
No,
up, bring
it's a
up-
simple puff.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, I mean, it is, anybody can do it. You can't do it wrong. You can't overdose.
Oh.
You know, and if the guy doesn't
As
come.
long as they're
around-
breathing.
If the guy doesn't come around, you walk into the room and the guy's lying on the floor and you give him one puff in each nostril, you wait literally about 15 seconds. If there are no signs of life going on, you can give him another puff. It doesn't hurt.
Is
them.
that fentanyl too?
Or it's because of fentanyl. Yes, it's the response, the
So
body's response.
This is, what did you call this?
It's naloxone, there's another flanoxolol. But we have the bottles positioned in the school and at the businesses, like I said.
So this is different than Narcan.
They're both the same.
No,
One's a
they're the
brand
same.
name.
Narcan is a brand name.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
what did you call
it's
it?
actually
What?
delivered through the airway now rather than a shot pen.
Yeah, you don't have to give it a shot anyplace.
Either one's still available, right?
Yes.
It's still like.
Yes, but these, and they have doubled because so many people had to take a second. They have now doubled the amount in each burst from the little bottle.
Tell her how to spell what you.
Oh,
The opioid, what do you
NaL.
call it? Opioid what? And then the
Well, yeah, it's
Knoxall.
a neutralizing.
Naloxone,
No, it was, it's a
NaLOX.
program, right?
Opioid Council, whatever it was called.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I didn't understand what you were asking me.
The
A
opioid.
lot cheaper than,
The governance council.
cause you know, when the guy bought the pharmaceutical company, he really jacked the Narcan. up. So is this stuff a lot cheaper or is it?
I am not, because they sent us, I applied for everything free, as you know, Scottish kilt and so on. And they sent it to us without charging us.
So does this have a longer shelf life than the shot?
The shelf life is really not bad. I don't know about the injector, okay, but the
So
sweetie.
this is a first time use, they're giving free and you're gonna get a subscription.
No, no, that the comic books, no,
Coffee cup. for you.
it's naloxone, NaLO. Okay, is that O-N-E?
Naloxone.
I'm not even, I just
Oh,
called it.
okay.
So,
Are you thinking about EpiPens? Epinephrine?
yeah, that's what I
happened
was
to
thinking.
epinephrine.
you must
Okay,
Yeah.
that is my mistake
That was
because
not an injection.
Right.
I thought that I had also heard that the Narcan or Narcan
Yeah.
was.
I'm not
jacked way
aware
up,
of it, but.
Maybe I am confusing the two.
and
Yeah,
then-
I don't
and-
believe that they have changed. anything
Okay.
in
And
particular.
epinephrine's still in the news about this
Oh, yeah.
$600 a dose when it cost them about 40 to manufacture. They were just raping people. And the feds said you cannot do that. I don't know what's happened. It was just on the news.
They
the
can
other
say
night.
it all they
It could
want.
be Narcan, but I'm not aware of
I
it.
think I'm confusing
Yeah,
the two and
I don't think
kind of,
it's,
Okay,
we haven't received anything, that's all I can
That's-
say.
that's my
on.
bad. It's,
Really
Makes
quick,
sense.
so this government council, you've gotten the Narcan to the school, the police. Or the sheriff's department now has it too.
Yes, and the posse members, every vehicle,
first responders.
yes, and all the first responders.
yeah, Rich told us about that during his report.
Yep, I was just putting it in minutes.
We're still trying to get
Okay.
a setup for the school. Okay, let's see, response. We have been, as I told you guys before, we have been soliciting from various businesses and camps and so on, for places that we could place people temporarily if there is a disaster. And I have been highly encouraged. The Saddle Club is great. Sky Ranch sent me a whole packet. Infrastructure, I mean, it's amazing, the housing, all the things that they're willing to provide. So I just wanted to put in a good word because I'm really impressed by some of these.
You're talking about
Organizations.
organizations that'll participate in a disaster.
Yes, who have volunteered to open their facilities to be able to take care of people
Okay,
if they're in trouble. Let's see. I have also appealed both to Pueblo and Fremont counties and so on for collaborative support for nursing support services for the children and the pregnant mothers. That has been, I think we're going to be able to enter into an agreement there. I asked the Director of Public Health in Pueblo if he has any nurses that we could get or somebody who might even be interested. I have also turned it over to the state, put it on their line for anybody, any nurses who are open and perhaps willing to come to our county, in Custer County. So just understand that these things are happening. For OAPR, we even the latest drill that we went through communications.
OAPR,
OE,
OEPR,
emergency.
okay.
We went through the latest of their drills today, tabletop exercise and so on. Infectious disease status is the next one. First of all, I should ask, do you guys have questions on any of these points?
No, but it reminded me of one thing, nurses wise, at some point, I know you couldn't do it today. We need to bring them over here and let's see who you got going.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That-
We had another. big
Just
meeting yesterday.
so we all understand
Yes.
who's who and who's doing what.
And I've asked them to do it,
meet
and they said they would.
Okay,
The health fair preparation right now, and organization, rallying of volunteers is a big issue on every plate in our,
issue meaning what?
a big issue as far as we're
Working it
pushing
hard.
really hard to get things done.
Okay.
Yeah, no major problems or anything like this right now. We have good response, but it is a
Yeah, I know Tom.
significant.
Tom and Jennifer have been working your save the date stuff.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and I got the, Jordan helped me get the signs out. If you notice when you're coming in, signs are out on the roads.
Did you use a pickup to pull any of those?
Yes, I
Yeah.
used our council,
Public health
our
pickup?
public health
Okay,
pickup.
good.
And we even went down and invested in the 3 different size insert for the hitch,
I hate those
because
things.
ours was
They're
too
not-
big.
They never manufactured a ton that fits them. They just have it so you can make it fit the normal one it did anyway. Why'd they do it?
So,
Yes, sir.
question, I guess, on that health fair. I don't want to speak for these two gentlemen, but, you know, I've been pushing for that to get reinstituted.
Sure.
And I know in times past, this body had volunteered, every time I went, county commissioners were sitting there helping out at that.
Sitting there hyping our wares.
I don't know that you have requested
We haven't.
anything from us or anything like that, but, I guess that's my question. Are you wanting help?
We
from
have
us
not
to-
asked for it yet. You
Okay.
know, there may come a time when we say, oops, we don't have enough people, and then we would put in a written request to you,
Okay,
Yeah, it's a political thing.
I suppose.
We were invited to go there and welcome everybody.
And make them feel like it was a
Yeah.
big deal. And we had different jobs. Some, I remember Jay was taking names and putting names down as they were getting their blood pressure.
Somebody was given
Directions.
people to put on their,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be anything big. Just an opportunity for the commissioners to be involved in.
They
that.
say we
So,
care about public health.
I don't think we particularly want a job.
I don't wanna get
Well-
trained on giving a shot.
You know, you won't be, I promise.
kid shy was passing out water bottles.
Or even,
Water balloons.
doing a blood. Pressure.
Anyway, I'm right now planning to be the one to kind of give direction to people when they come in and tell them where they can get what they particularly want.
Pass
So-
out public health
Yeah.
agency caps.
And then, if I may, sir, ask another question on that.
No.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, please.
well, just because I planning on attending this, whether I'm working there or not, because there was a comment of it being free, but I think that's all the booths inside. There's still a charge for like the blood panel workup, depending
Yeah,
on what you.
Yeah,
ask
and that
for.
was the comment that I tried to make. If there are specific blood tests or chemical tests that they need to have, those people will be making application for. In other words, letting us know so that we can tell them and we can get the information that they're going to need to have that, so they can walk it in. It'll be a fluid process. It'll be a prepared process before they ever get there. So they will fill out.
So we wouldn't be filling out the
No,
form when we get there like we used to do.
that's right. We want to get things so that it doesn't take as long. We can get more people taken care of.
Okay.
And may I,
Go ahead.
Dr. Brown,
Yes.
at the health fair, I think a big draw would be a dunk tank for these three.
Oh, dear.
You know, I could work that.
I know historically too, they had vouchers, I think through CDPHE to offset the cost of the blood work. I'm not sure. Those girls over there would
Oh,
remember
yeah,
that.
we're working everything we
Yeah.
can get for free. We're trying for.
Good.
Okay, I'll go on.
Sorry
here.
about that.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, dunk takes are great, but since I serve at your pleasure.
You could do it.
As long as you're not the one throwing the ball.
Okay. The infectious disease status, if those are okay, we'll go on here. Infectious disease status, I'll take off because COVID has always, it's been such a great big thing. All reports of illness and communicable diseases of serious natures, first of all, indicate that the incident rates are going down. I mean, big time down. Just this last month, CDC 6.7% less throughout the whole United States. They're falling. New infections, hospitalizations, deaths, all three categories. Secondly,
And is that just for COVID?
this is dealing with COVID right now.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, but I'll be covering flu here and RSV,
Okay,
and the incidence is dropping there also. The big ticket item here recently, here in the last week or two, has been the risk of heart problems, and particularly with Pfizer. These may not show up for multiple months, like even 5 months after the vaccination has been received. So there are some reports that say, a lot of reports that say there is a decrease in risk once you take your vaccination if you get seriously ill, but there are increasing number of reports coming out saying there is an increased risk relative to heart problems. Does that mean you're going to have one? No, but the jury is still out, so we need to have some.
Do you
Some
recommending
caution.
not getting a Pfizer shot?
Well, I would recommend that they discuss it with their physician before they get the injection. And once again, it doesn't mean they're gonna have a problem, but I don't want anybody coming back and say, well, you didn't tell me.
You need
because
to
it's
make
all over the
information
news.
available and you can make a
Yes.
recommendation based on that. Get your doctor involved.
That's right.
Be cautious. Don't get it if you don't need it.
That's exactly right. Those people who are at high risk, you really ought to talk to your doctor and make sure that he doesn't or she doesn't say,
In a board-
I think it's worth the risk. So-
Can I get your number?
Updates on COVID medication, treatment medication that are under development. There was one that was just taken off the market, so
And then what
by
was
the
your name again?
FDA off the emergency release.
And your with,
We have Paxlovid, Leclery, and the Gevario.
and what's it called?
Gevario. Anyway, it's there are only 3 that are available, the monoclonal antibodies right now. There is a
So you just said they were taken off and not doing that.
no, there's one that was taken off. There are only 3 that remain. And this is the 3 that we still have. There is one other change from the FDA
Well,
for
I'm the
people
secretary for this
who
meeting as
are
well,
concerned
so we're gonna
and
have to give
in
you a call
possible need of treatment.
back. So thank you.
if-
And we will.
If they are high-risk
definitely-
individuals,
Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
if they're high-risk individuals, they don't have to have a positive test anymore before they can get.
High risk gets it anyway.
High risk, if they are symptomatic and the physician agrees that this is what it actually is, he doesn't have to have a positive test. He can begin them
Got it.
immediately
And what is
on
that?
monoclonal
I'm sorry.
Monoclonal.
monoclonal antibodies
treatment.
for treatment for COVID. They do not have to have a positive COVID-19 test now. As of yesterday. or whatever. Okay, now you are asking Jennifer about the flu.
I was just making sure I had the right disease that you were talking about.
Yeah. So this ties right in. The RSV is going the same way. The incidence in flu is rapidly dropping. For instance, when people came in with upper respiratory infections, only 3% of those tested actually had flu. And of the ones who were positive, 96% were influenza A. And 73.2 of those were H3N2, and then we have 26.8 were H1N1 from clear back in 2009, if you guys remember. The bird flus, avian flus. Returning to COVID, the 7-day average to actually give you some numbers here quickly. 11.3% of the cases, 13.9% of hospitalizations, and 4.9% deaths. Those are all drops. In other words, they're less and less and less each month. The little incidents that I gave you for Custer County, that's us specifically. But if you notice over at the end, it's hitting the 0 line. Okay, on that far right-hand side, so you see that trend, that popping up and down, that it's going down. Essentially to zero. So the week ending the 27th of January, understand these are always lag because they have to do the.
This is all last
Figure it out.
year, last year to now,
Yes, yes.
1st of January, a year
To
ago.
to the 27th of January this year on the far right-hand side.
Mhm.
Okay, just to show. A couple other things that are kind of interesting to me. The variant that is dominant here is still this XXB 1.5. Probably could make less difference to some people, but it is coming down. Also, the white-tailed deer have been found to harbor both the alpha, the gamma, and the delta variants of the SARS-CoV-2 virus.
Yeah, our population of whitetails is increasing here somewhere,
So,
which is, do you like whitetail?
You know, I have never gotten a whitetail.
always
But I
moves.
sure wouldn't mind
Try
holding one.
They're more tender,
I'm still listening.
but they're small.
Yes, they are smaller, much smaller.
Okay, what
Okay,
else?
the other thing that I thought might be interesting to people in our county, travel cautions to the following countries. And I'm gonna tell you what they're worried about. Nigeria is polio and Lassa fever. LASSA fever. Argentina is measles, Paraguay measles. In Central African Republic is polio, Chad polio, Indonesia polio, Yemen polio. So if for some reason,
Polio coming back, do we?
if that's exactly it. If for some reason you didn't get a polio shot when you were a kid,
Which is about 80% of the country now.
yeah. How about that? And a whole bunch of new people coming in and who haven't been tested.
You
at
got
all.
one, didn't you?
And it's been showing up in the water, in the water,
And, yeah,
wastewater.
Is there a place to find,
Okay.
to go to find travel advisories?
Yeah, you can, anybody can always phone me and I will give them detail, not just simple listings.
Why don't you post it somewhere?
We can do that. We can do that on our webpage.
Sure.
I think that I sent those things, but I'll check again.
Um,
The other thing is that there is a new TB drug that's used as a kind of a last resort, but for people who are sensitive, because there are resistant strains, like I've been warning you guys now for 2 years when the borders went open. We're in trouble potentially here. It's Telacebec, TELACEBEC. So it's a new drug, so it's been shown to be about 70% effective on resistant strains of
Okay,
TB.
let me ask you a practical question
Go.
then, because people used to come here, they still do, because tuberculosis. If you have it, come to Westcliff.
Right.
You'll be cured.
Dry.
Dry and so what makes it? Is it the dryness? Is it the altitude? Is it the UVA? Is it the
Yeah.
closeness to the sun? What is it?
People used to be sent into the dry climates in Arizona for
Mhm.
the TB sanitariums,
Mhm.
but that is essentially.
So my question is this new strain more very virulent than the other, so that coming to Westcliff ain't gonna save you?
Are you trying to tell people not to
I
come?
just wanna know because
Because
it matters,
yeah,
and that's something you can tell.
anything that
That
is
you ought to post.
positive for cutting down the activity is a good thing. So still the dry, the good sunshine,
Even with the new strains.
even with the new, it's a bacteria, okay?
Right, I get it. So, but it's more resistant even to our climate.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, COVID vaccinations, because the next stage is the vaccine report. COVID vaccinations now, the state is just counting them in along with everything else. So they do not have to be reported. There's a simple testing.
So we're not
form.
tracking it.
Yeah, they're not tracking it like they were,
Okay.
like it was being required by CDPHE. We did 58 vaccinations just this past month, 38 to kids and 22 adults. If you want the list of the different vaccinations that we've given to kids and to adults, I'll give that to you. Otherwise, I won't
Okay,
take the time to do it.
well, these are things that you can PR wise are good to publish. Another one would be similar, would be shingles, I keep getting asked this.
That's one of, yeah,
And
and we-
shingles, is there 2 shots or 1 required? There's been, people are confused.
okay. Depends on which vaccine you're using. But the one that we use is 2 shots.
Important to put out.
So with the shingles. Do you have to, there for a while, shingles, you had to be symptom free for so long before you could have the vaccination?
Yes.
Is that still the case?
Yes, there's nothing changed about any of those things. The problems that we have been with people who want to have, and it's allowed if you want to, but we recommend against it, where they want to have flu shot and the COVID
Right.
vaccine on the same day.
That's a good question, and it also begs the question, how soon do you get your second shot?
Okay.
6 months or a year?
No.
Or
the-
2 weeks?
Yeah, it depends on what shot are you talking about COVID now?
No, shingles.
Oh, okay. The second shot is a very specified period of time and it's within the 2 months
What is?
of the time you get the first one.
First one.
What if somebody
Need to get
has,
that out.
has shingles and has been treated with acyclovir to prevent shingles outbreaks? Can
Are you
they?
talking about after they've had shingles or?
Yeah, I know of people who've had shingles and then they get acyclovir and the minute they
You
come
get
off of it,
antibodies against shingles.
then they immediately have shingles again if they come off of the acyclovir. Will the
Yeah,
shingles shot help?
I would suggest that they speak with their provider because there are some different approaches.
Okay,
Okay, so work it out with their provider and with our nurse.
So,
okay.
so all this is relevant,
So
so
they're in
from your
agreement.
point of view, then we can make recommendations, get your shingle shot, get it 2 weeks later. See your physician if you've had blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Just get a panel of that.
That's right, that's right. We'll get, if you want that type of information, we'll get that to you.
Okay.
I don't want it, I do, but I mean,
Right,
ready to
I
make it
understand.
available to
I
others.
understand. And it is, anybody phoning in will have all of those questions very specifically answered for their particular
Okay,
situation. Okay. Following that, because the testing isn't required anymore, programs in progress, and this is the last, finally, item on the discussion panel here. Programs in progress. There are 2 of them. And I've mentioned the one, the Opioid Governance Council, the Behavioral Provider Workforce Stipend Committee. Yeah, they went through 25 applications that they got them in on time. They'll be allowed to do it in the future also, but we'll be voting on the 15 that we choose here fairly shortly. But also maternal and child health. These challenges are of utmost importance. So in trying to get our pregnant mothers and infants taken care of, we have to be able to establish the stability and the capacity of our workforce for the pension and replacement. And so sure enough, the state has thankfully come out with an additional grant funding so that maybe we can hang on to our nurses.
good.
We also have for the children, we have 7 total items, CHAPS for the food for pregnant mothers, pregnancy depression, counseling, suicide prevention counseling, substance misuse counseling, early childhood screenings, and obesity prevention. And all of those things are very, very, very valuable for the kiddo. Okay, and with that, I know I covered an awful lot very quickly, because we've had such an extended time
Been a while.
today. Is there anything else that you guys would like to either directly address or any questions from the things that we just kind of ran through?
Only thing I have, how long are you gonna leave your variable message signs out with the current message?
Probably through this coming, at least this week and possibly through the coming, and then we'll take them down and then we'll put them back up. As, you know, this was just the initial kind of
Right.
stimulation of people
Okay,
to look. So we're not given much information first. We're just
right.
telling them to save the day.
Yeah, I'm in the process of working with, writing a new contract with CDOT.
I see.
So I don't know what they're gonna say.
Okay,
If they say, hey, it's gotta be no more than a week, I'll let you know that. But
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I ask.
Not trying to get in too big a hurry to finish up that contract, but,
Right. Well, it has been a year plus now, hasn't it?
oh yeah, we're out of
Clear into-
contract. And as we all know, the longer those are up, the less effective they
People
become.
get
People
the
get
attention.
And people don't even know if they're
I
there.
certainly noticed the one coming in from the
Good.
recycle, so.
Yeah, and I don't want things to be wasted. I just want to be able to put up some messaging
Got
as
anything?
time goes on.
I think I'm good.
You okay?
Anything else?
Those are-
I'm good. Good job. Thanks for
Thank you, Joel.
the heads up. Get with Jennifer,
Yes,
make things happen.
I will get some information from Hell or High Water.
Are we adjourned?
If anybody doesn't have anything else, I adjourn this meeting at 3:32. 2 hours.
Exactly 2 hours to the minute.
So you still charge for the shingle shots here, right?
Turn off
Yeah,
everything.
that's all we do is we charge exactly